Well, hello, how are you? My name is Jeff. I'm so glad you could be with me today. Okay, 2 weeks ago, I said I was going to do a film called Mighty Jack, and you might have noticed from today's title, I'm doing a different film. Why is that, you ask? Well, I looked and searched for any information about Mighty Jack, and there was just nothing out there, nothing of interest. And I thought, what was the point? I mean, I would be bored, you would be bored, the whole world would be bored, so why don't we move on to something a bit more interesting, a Roger Corman classic? So today I'm going to talk about a film that was first shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000 on November 9th, 1991. It was the American independent black and white science fiction adventure film called Teenage Caveman, produced and directed by Roger Corman. It stars Robert Vaughn, Darah Marshall, Leslie Bradley, Frank Kova, and many other wonderful people. This is the episode in which we open with the gang being bored because there's a thunderstorm outside, in space. So the idea comes up to play poker, and since Gypsy has never played poker before, Crow, Tom, and Joel think it's easy money. Then Joel and the bots create their own rainy day epicats. We never do find out the Mad's invention because they begin fighting, and what a fight it is. The gang does a parody of the short Catching Trouble, which they call Catching Ross. Joel begins the history of technology, but is interrupted by Forrester and Frank, who are still fighting. Later, Joel lectures the bots on the pendulum of human development, how it swings back and forth between safety and risk, and we finish with the bots parodying the end of the movie as it relates to them. And the Mads make up over a cup of orange cappuccino and watch the film Dad with Jack Lemmon. Now, for those new to the show, while I'm talking about a film that was shown on Mystery Science Theater 3000, I'm more talking about the film itself and not so much about Joel and the bots' treatment of the film. But don't worry, Misties, don't give up on me now. There'll be a little for you at the end, I promise. Prehistoric rebels against prehistoric beasts. Teenage Caveman. Well, I guess, okay. But here's the thing. The poster art for this, there's nothing like that in the film. I wish there was, but I think that's a bit of false advertising there. Anyway, right away we should get into the title of the film. Robert Vaughn stars in the film, and he was 25 years old at the time. Casting adults as teenagers, like in the film I did last time, is something I enjoy poking fun at. But this time, well, the misleading title is the fault of James A. Nicholson and Samuel Z. Arkoff, the men in charge of AIP. As Roger Corman said in the book, Roger Corman Interviews by Konstantin Nasser, by the way, I never made a movie called Teenage Caveman. The movie I shot was called Prehistoric World. AIP retitled it for a while, but thank goodness they went back to the original title shortly thereafter. Apparently the title was changed because AIP had a huge success with their film right before this, I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Of course, Roger says AIP went back to the original title, but if that's the case, why are we watching a film called Teenage Caveman? Roger also said, Prehistoric World was an example of my being able to work within the low-budget formula and improve upon it by using a little imagination. Hey Roger, we'll be the judge of that in a minute. Anyway, they said they wanted him to make a Prehistoric World picture for $80,000 in 10 days. So he was under a bit of constraint there, right? Anyway, he took credit for the idea for this film, but from what I've read, according to Joe Dante, Corman based the film, without securing the rights, on Stephen Vincent Bennett's 1937 novella, By the Waters of Babylon. Now, I've never read By the Waters of Babylon, but I did read its description on Wikipedia, and it does seem like there are some similarities, so whatever. In the book, The Dinosaur Filmography by Mark F. Berry, he points out as to why this is not a so bad it's good flick. Though not without a few chuckler scenes, it never sinks into silliness. Teenage Caveman stubbornly maintains a measure of dignity. And the film does do us the favor of not having the characters speak in broken English or some sort of made-up language. They just speak ordinary English, which was fine with me. And they don't have the women dress like spring break contestants, though I have nothing against 1 million years BC. On the negative side, the story for this film is a bit thin and it probably could have been condensed into about a half hour. There's a lot of, it's a crime to cross the river, but I want to cross the river. But it's a crime to cross the river, but it's a it goes back and forth. Anyway, the film was almost all shot at Bronson Canyon, of course. The monster suit for this film was recycled from Night of the Blood Beast, and we even get a quick shot of the monster from 1956 Sea Creature. Of course, all the shots of the dinosaurs were taken from other films. Now, we've talked about Corman in the past, as well as James A. Nicholson and Samuel Z. Arkoff, so we can skip them. So what do we talk about? How about the writer Robert Campbell? Robert Wright Campbell lived from 1927 to 2000. He's the brother of William Campbell, an actor I guess we'll talk about someday. Anyway, it was through his brother that he met Roger Corman, and he wrote Corman's first film, 5 Guns West, in which he also acted. He wrote a lot of TV and a few low-budget films before giving up screenplays to be a novelist. Some of the films he did write were Gun for a Coward and Man of a Thousand Faces, both from 1957, Machine Gun Kelly from 1958, A Terrible Beauty from 1960, The Young Racers from 63, The Mask of the Red Death from 64, and Hell's Angels on Wheels from 1967. Now, why don't we look at our cast? First, we have the cymbal maker's teenage son, played by Robert Vaughn. Robert Francis Vaughn lived from 1932 to 2016. He was an American actor and political activist. In his long career, he was a Primetime Emmy winner and was nominated for the Academy Award, the BAFTA Award, and 4 times for the Golden Globe Award. Of course, people of my age would know him best as Napoleon Solo from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. from 1964 to 1968. But he was also in films like A Good Day for a Hanging in 1959, The Magnificent Seven in 1960, Bullitt in 1968, and Julius Caesar in 1970. So why would he do a film like this? Well, he was a young actor who had some success on the stage, but I'm guessing that, 10 days work for AIP would pay the rent for a couple of months. I'm guessing. And, he said this was the worst film he ever did, but I'm thinking he said that before he starred in Starship Invasions in 1977, because that's like, wow. The Blonde Maiden is played by Darah Marshall. Darah lived from 1933 to 2019 and really didn't have much of a film career. She won Miss Teenage America in 1951. She worked as a model before this, and I assume she was trying to turn it into an acting career, but she only has 7 credits listed on IMDb, this being her only film. The cymbal maker was played by Leslie Bradley. Leslie Bradley lived from 1907 to 1974. He was one of those actors who had a long career playing mostly small parts. Some of his films of interest were Naked Paradise from 1957 and Attack of the Crab Monsters, also from 1957. Frank DeCova plays Black Bearded One. DeCova lived from 1910 to 1981. He had a long career in both TV and films. His most famous role was perhaps 63 episodes of the TV sitcom F Troop from 1955 to 1967, where he played Chief Wild Eagle. In fact, it seems like he played a lot of Native Americans throughout his career, including a 1979 episode of Little House on the Prairie. So what is Teenage Caveman? We start out with a little biblical-like talk, some narration that really doesn't need to be there.
In the beginning, there was chaos and eternal night. And a voice said, "Let there be light."
Cut to primitive humans in a barren, rocky wasteland carrying a fresh kill back to their settlement, and everyone is happy. But the 25-year-old boy didn't make it back, so Dad goes looking for him.
Where's the boy? Beyond the river?
It seems he's been going beyond the river, but that's forbidden. There's something over there, besides footage from the 1948 film Unknown Island, that can kill with its touch. The boy has a lot of questions, but of course, questions aren't allowed.
Why do we hunt in a place where there are dead trees and only a few animals to give the fire, when there's plenty there?
I tell you to listen to the law and hold to it.
Boy returns and someone catches his eye. A pretty blonde, but Mom isn't having it, so instead, there's more questions.
Why do you keep such a small fire?
It's the first of the 3 great gifts of man.
Why should you sit here and tend it, when it is all around, at every cook fire, when it can be made from the fire rock?
It's the first of the three great gifts of man.
The answer to all the questions seems to be that it is the word of the law.
It is the word of the law.
Well, what does it mean?
It will take a brave, strong man to know that.
There is something about the symbol makers that I didn't quite follow, but apparently the symbol makers are important.
The symbol makers are the dreams of the people, are the tellers to God of the people, are the test of the people. The symbol makers are the evil, and the death, and the darkness, and the masters of fire.
The boy and his dad are the symbol makers. The older one explains that there's a thing across the river that gives death with its touch, even though he's never seen it before.
This thing that gives death with its touch. You saw it?
No.
Then how do you know it's so terrible?
I was shown its look by the symbol maker before me.
And now it's time for the hunt. And wait a minute, didn't they just bring a very large dead animal back to the camp? You know, they don't have refrigeration or anything, but anyway. The hunt doesn't go well. Dad's been hurt. The guy with the beard is putting ideas into the boy's head.
Have you ever wondered what is beyond the burning plain? Beyond the river? Farther, perhaps beyond the great green forest. If my legs could bear me, I'd find out.
And it seems the bearded man has a reason for trying to get the boy to break the law.
And if the law is broken so that evil comes to the clan? Death.
Are we to be made afraid by an old one's baby dream? The law is old, but age is not always truth. How many will go with me?
Okay, look, we've got it, right? The boy is curious, but curiosity is against the law. But the boy's able to get a few guys with him, so across the river they go. And for a moment, it looks like they're gonna have fun. The boy even invents music. Uh-oh. Don't worry, the stock footage can't hurt you, and I think I've seen a lot of this footage in other B films.
The sinking earth!
So one of the gang drowns, and I'll have a story about his death after the film.
You've given one of the clan to the earth.
You know, I hate to be a jerk, but that death is really on you, Robert Vaughn. I mean, you broke the law and everything, and what did you think was going to happen? The others return, but the boy stays and runs around for a bit. He builds a fire to keep the dinosaurs away, and he cooks up the squirrel that he's killed. But what is this? Could it be that thing that gives death with its touch? So what does the boy and George of the Jungle have in common? Back to the cave, and Dad wants to see the boy.
He is not here.
Where then?
Beyond the river.
When?
A time ago.
That's the problem with kids these days, right? They just don't listen to their parents.
Your son has broken the law. He is beyond the river. Your blood will bring the death to visit us, as it was told in times past.
Yeah, rub it in a little more, why don't you? Hey, that's Jonathan Hayes. Of course it is. This is a Roger Corman film. So the boy wakes with a bit of a headache, I assume, and invents the bow and arrow. Was the tree he smacked into like the monolith in 2001 that gave him extra intelligence? I don't know. and he uses the bow and arrow to kill a deer. Meanwhile, Dad is looking for him. Now those are supposed to be evil dogs, I guess, but to me they look like dogs who just want to play. Dad rescues the boy by killing one of the dogs, and I want to call the ASPCA. So they go back home, and the boy's in a bit of trouble.
The word tells us that the law is truth. This one has broken the law. But still the gods have not come.
He has a point there, right? So the dude with the beard and Dad argue back and forth, and back and forth.
I say only to wait until it does come. And I say must be kept from the people by another death. The word of the law is truth.
Dad's idea is for everybody in the village to shun the young boy, to not talk to him nor him talk to them, until he becomes a man, until he completes something called the rites of manhood. The old man, who I guess is in charge, agrees with him.
It shall be as the symbol maker says.
But the bearded one, well, he wants to fight. They fight for a bit, but that goes nowhere. It has been decided that society shall shun the boy. Everybody will ignore him, including his own mother and Blondie, his would-be girlfriend. But later, the blonde is taking a bath when Boy walks up. The thing is, she can't resist his new music. They talk until this thing shows up. No one knows what to make of it.
What is it?
Something. Some beast from beyond the burning plain.
It takes a while to learn that it's just a man riding a horse.
It is no one beast, but a man atop an animal.
There is no such thing. No man can stay a beast.
It is there before you.
I say kill it before it brings sickness and death. Kill the beasts.
And they think like a lot of people. You must kill the thing you don't understand.
Peace.
To make a long story short, the boy has his manhood ceremony. He sets up a home with Blondie, but decides to cross the river anyway to kill the thing that gives death with its touch. Dad finds out and follows, and so does the bearded dude, and he brings all the men with him. So now every man is across the river. The boy comes across the thing that gives death with its touch, but he has his doubts about it.
This is no evil thing.
The bearded man drops a rock on its head before getting an arrow in the chest.
No god. A man.
To their shock, they learn that this wasn't a monster, it was an old man. And what does this old man possess? It looks like a book.
This must be the way a man should greet man. His hands without a weapon.
Hey, we're not in prehistoric times at all, are we? And then we, as the audience, get an explanation about what's been going on.
I and a party of 23 others were on a scientific expedition when the bombs began to fall. The terrible power of nuclear weapons was unleashed all over the world. Retaliation added to retaliation, until all traces of man's works had been wiped from the face of the earth. Of the few living things that escaped the blast, some grew huge beyond all reason and formed as the dinosaurs of prehistory, or took on new shapes altogether, mad in shape and purpose. My comrades and I, half protected by our radiation suits, found ourselves given an age far beyond the span allowed. Out of all the sprawling millions of the earth, a handful escaped all harm through fortune or design. On occasion, we tried to contact them, But they feared us, and our radiation killed those who came too close. Now, only I'm left, and the radiation has worn away these long, long years.
This happened a long time ago, and as you know, men did meet other men, and fire smelted metal, made explosives. The wheel turned machines and made gun barrels. The towers were built and flattened.
So I guess we are in prehistoric times. This happened a long time ago, and I guess we're just in a cycle that keeps repeating, I guess.
How many times? Will it happen again? And if it does, will any at all survive the next time? Or will it be the end?
You know, this film seems a little similar to M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. I think, because I've never actually seen The Village, but that's what I've been told. Anyway. So the music for this film was done by Albert Glaser, and we talked about him in the last episode because he did a lot of music for Roger Corman, and you can see why, because his music, like in this film, is always pretty effective. Now, I promised you I had a story to tell about the character drowning in the lake. There was an actor in this film, Beach Dickerson, who worked a lot with Corman. He played a number of roles in this film. He plays the man who falls off the horse, he played the bear, he played the tom-tom player at the funeral, and he was the dude that drowned. Now, according to Dickerson, this was filmed at the Pasadena Arboretum. Apparently the water was pretty disgusting. He said, "I was supposed to fall off a log into this water that was so filthy it almost made me throw up. So I held my breath and jumped in and started flailing around. Roger kneels beside me and says, 'I don't believe you are drowning. You're not convincing me.' Well, of course I didn't want to stick my face into that gunk, but I figured I might as well get it over with, so I finally gave him what he wanted. I kicked and screamed and sank and floated to the top like a dead man." And you know, when he was done with that scene, he thought he was done acting in the film, but since he was around, Corman used him again and again and again because Roger Corman's always going to get his money's worth. Now, I don't think Robert Vaughn, this is my personal opinion, I don't think Robert Vaughn was right for this role. I mean, he was an up-and-coming actor at the time, and so I'm sure Roger Corman cast him because of his name and probably because he got him for cheap. But I think Jonathan Hayes would have been a lot better as the wide-eyed, curious young man. Anyway, and I've read people criticize Darah Marshall's performance in the film. I read it in multiple places, but I'm thinking she's barely in the film and she didn't have a lot to work with. Though I assume she wasn't a very good actor because her career was very short. I could be wrong. Now, for today's obscure reference, we have this.
Why am I thinking about gas stations?
And then later we have this.
Not even the hunters of years will go after the dark. At the first light, then.
At the first light, take a left by the Sinclair station.
Sinclair Oil was an American petroleum company founded by Harry F. Sinclair in 1916. They had, or maybe still do, a chain of gas stations, and their logo was the silhouette of a brontosaurus dinosaur, based on the then common belief that oil deposits beneath the earth came from the decaying dead bodies of dinosaurs. Now, I grew up in the Midwest, and we used to have them around here everywhere, but we don't anymore. But I think they're still popular out west. Am I right about that? I'm not sure. Anyway, this film is a brisk 65 minutes. Mystery Science Theater 3000 showed 61 minutes, and I wouldn't sweat the missing 4 minutes. I'm assuming it was just more of the characters arguing between themselves like they do so often in this film. So now why don't we watch the best 2 minutes of that episode?
And then there came... man.
To screw the whole thing up. Well, Frank the Kova of F Troop, wow!
And Jonathan Hayes all in my brain.
You know, I'm just guessing, guys, but since this is a Corman film, we better get used to this scenery.
Yep.
We are on the Neanderthal.
We are on Neanderthal.
We are gonna have a ball.
We are gonna have a ball.
Wow! Warriors, come out and play, eh?
Clink, clink. It is the word that death will be given to the one who goes there.
What are you, chicken? Come on.
They're all afraid.
Ron, don't touch me, please.
Are all the men gathered?
Ron, I'm gonna count to 10 for you to get your hand off me.
Oh, here he is, your Komodo dragon.
Oh,
It looks like H.R. Puffin stuff after a fiery car wreck. Oop.
Branch is funny. Solo cubed it again.
Oh, wait a minute. She's got buttons? No word for day, but she's got buttons.
Amazing.
Terrific.
One wants to take the risks that a better life demands.
And the law's the word, and the word is the law. We know.
To do the dying.
Thong, the fish are ready. Suddenly it's a John Ford film. It's like she wore a yellow loincloth. Bum, bum, bum.
Come on.
He who moves for the
Shut up!
This is the God they fear.
Mr.
Death declared will fear
Snuffleupagus?
no more, and the law will be gone, and a new way open to us.
Napoleon Solo has foiled Thrush once again.
Will any at all survive the next time?
Doubtful.
Or will it be the end?
Robert Vaughn will be back in the Sweet Sweetback affair. Woo!
So, thank you to everybody who watched my Yvette Vickers video last week. It was my most successful video I've ever done, which was amazing to me. And also, to everybody who left a wonderful comment on my Earth vs. the Spider episode. Thank you so much. Now, I asked anybody if they had any suggestions of celebrities who deserved a short biography. You know, somebody who maybe is slightly forgotten about. Anyway, Elp1960 suggested Eldo Farnese, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. And he starred in the film The Dead Talk Back. And the thing is, I was going to do a video about The Dead Talk Back a while back ago. And I did look him up, and there's very little information about him out there. There was a few interesting things, and I think I'll wait on that one until I do a Dead Talk Back episode, since that was featured on Mystery Science Theater, I think in season 6, am I correct? Anyway, I also heard from Miguel.com, who suggested in all capital letters, and I don't know why he was yelling at me, that I should boost my audio up a little, that it's too quiet compared to all the other videos on YouTube. Is that right? Because I don't go back and watch them. Anyway, let me know. I tried to boost the audio a little this week. We'll see if it makes everybody happy out there, but let me know how it sounds. I really appreciate constructive criticism. I do. But thanks to everybody who commented. Those comments really make the show worth doing. Anyway, the next episode I'll do in 2 weeks, it will be the saga of the Viking women and their voyage to the waters of the Great Sea Serpent. And yes, that was its original title, even though nowadays it's been shortened to the Viking Women and the Sea Serpent. It was a 1958 action-adventure horror film by Roger Corman. And it stars Abby Dalton, June Cabot, and June Kinney. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful holiday season. I want you to take care, stay healthy, and join me in 2 weeks with the Viking Women's film. Take care.